Hello and welcome once again for another EE324 Dynamical Systems video. Today we're going to be discussing the state space representation. This is the second part of lecture 8. Okay, so the state space representation is a very specific representation of the system. So we saw last time in the input-output equations that we get a single differential equation with a high order. Typically, we might have order 2, 3, 4. In the state space representation, we're going to do what we did before, which is get it into a set of single order 1 differential equations that are coupled, which we did in an earlier lecture. But this time we're going to bring the whole representation together. So here we're going to have the state vector, which is going to be q, and then q dot obviously is going to be the individual first order differential equations. And we've already actually written the system like this. We've already written the system like this, what we can see here in blue. Okay, so we've already seen that part of this, but now we're also going to take into account the input vectors, which is the input forces, right? Forces that are forcing the system to have some sort of motion or whatever. That's going to be the B times U terms. So A, B, C, and D here are all going to be matrices. And depending on the size of the matrices will vary based on the system that we're examining, right? So sometimes B might end up being, as we'll see in a moment, might be a vector. So we'll think of that as a matrix that only has one column, right? Or D might be just a number or something like that. But we do have to write them very specifically here because we're going to have the U. We want U to be some kind of vector, or it could be a number, right? Depending on the size of the system. That multiplies that matrix B, and the B is going to contain all of the terms that we need. Just like A contains all of the coefficients that we need for the matrix representation of the state space, B will contain all of the coefficients that multiply our U's. So if we only have a single U, then B might be a vector. B will be a vector. If we have multiple U's, then B will be some matrix, right? Then the matrix C, it's going to be similar for C and D. In this case, though, the Y is the output vector, and the output vector is going to be very specific to the problem that we're dealing with. We'll have to define everything in order to be able to determine the output vector. It's not just going to come from the differential equations themselves. Like we're going to have to know where we're measuring the system, for instance, to find the output vector. And we'll see an example of this now. So suppose I have the following system, x1 dot. So I've already written it in the state space form, right? So we have x1 dot equal to negative 6.2 x1 minus 2.3 x2 plus 8.4 x3. x2 dot is equal to negative x2 plus 2.7 x3 plus 3 times u1, right? We have one input force here that's going in here. And you'll notice that over on the third differential equation that we have, x3 dot, we also have a u2, so we have a different input force going there. Okay, and so a couple of things we should notice in the x2 dot equation, there is no x1, so that's going to have a coefficient of 0, and we'll see that in our matrix A, right? So getting the matrix A is pretty easy because you just read it off of here. Anything that has an x1, x2, and x3 in it goes in its proper column, right? Because our state space now is going to be x1, x2, x3, the vector x1, x2, x3. Oh, and here I should have, let me just get my little pen here, just so that I can fix this, because I forgot my little x vector here. This is going to be x1, x2, x3. Okay? So now this is taking the place of my vector q that I wrote up here. Obviously, this matrix over here is A, and I have a matrix B. Now notice that I only have two U's, so I only have two input forces, but I have three equations in my state space. So the only way to actually make B work here is if it's a 3 by 2 matrix. Because I need to, this is going to say U1 times the first column of B plus U2 times the second column of B will give me my U's that come here, right? So I need the matrix B is going to have to be a very specific size in order to make these things work out. Now the last thing is that as I mentioned up here, in order to find my output vector, I need to know something about what's going on in the system. So in this case, I'm going to measure the system, and my measurements of the system are going to be I'm going to measure x1, so that's going to be my y1. I'm going to measure, directly measure x1, and then my measurements of x2 and x3 are actually going to come in a single measurement, x2 minus x3. So that's going to be my second measurement variable. Okay, so now I have all of the information that I need to get the final piece of the state space representation, which is this y here. So, but I do need to know this. Where am I measuring my system? Where are the outputs, right? In order to get the output equation here. So we can get the whole first part of the state space representation just by knowing the differential equations. But the second part, we need to know where am I measuring? Okay, and if I do that, I can write the y vector as follows. Obviously, the output vector is going to be y1, y2 because I'm measuring those two places, and then I'm going to have this matrix C. I'm going to have which is going to tell me, okay, notice that if I do x1 times the first column plus x2 times the second column plus x3 times the third column, notice that my y1 here ends up being x1, which is what I wanted, right? So when I multiply this out, I get x1. My y2, if you notice here, right, it doesn't have anything to do with x1 because of this 0 here. So my y2 ends up having x2 right there and minus x3, which is exactly what I wanted, right? So you should get comfortable with this matrix multiplication that we're doing here. Then my state space vector, again, well, notice that here, again, I had the state space vector in the output, just like I had it in the state space representation up here. So I get Q twice. I'm also going to get U twice. And so I already know my U is U1 and U2, so that's my vector U. And but notice that in my measurements that U1 and U2 are not measured. So I'm not measuring the input forces, right, at any point here. So then I'm gonna multiply that vector by this matrix D, which is just going to be the 0 matrix because I'm not measuring any of the U's there. Okay? So let's do an example where we build the whole thing from the beginning using just getting looking at a a picture of the system and developing the whole thing right from the beginning. Okay, so here I have this vector. I'm going to have this, not vector, but I'm going to have this x. That's going to be my reference frame. And I'm going to assume that I measure the variable x. Okay, so I'm taking my measurements, and x is the displacement of this cart. That's the only thing I'm measuring about the system. And my reference frame is going to be pointed in the direction that I just said, x going this way, right? So I need to know my reference frame too in order to build the model. I have the cart, it's connected to a spring and a damper, and it has some external input force F1 that's pulling that cart, right? So the first thing I'm going to say is my input force is my U is going to be F1. The second thing is obviously I can go directly from this to my my equations of motion. So I'm not going to actually draw the free body diagram here, but you should be now comfortable at this point with drawing the free body diagram. And if you do, you'll find that this is the equation that we get. We get mx double dot plus bx dot plus kx is equal to f1 of t. And again, I'm going to make that substitution u in there because we're going to write it as in the form of the state space representation. So we think of that as the vector u. And then, just like before, I need to get, this is a second order differential equation, so I need to get this into the state form, which has only coupled first order differential equations, right? So I need to do my clever trick that we learned before of defining, in this case, I'm going to define x1 as x, and I'm going to define, then that means x1 dot is equal to x dot. And then I'm also going to define x2 as x dot, right? And then, so that means that x1 dot must be equal to x2 because x2 is defined as x dot. And then x2 dot has to be x double dot. And by doing this nice, clever transformation, I'm going to get two first order differential equations, which is what I want. And so I have to rewrite this just as we did before. I just solved this equation up here for x double dot, and this is what I get over here. And once I solve the system for that, then I know what x2 dot has to be. But notice that I still have dots in here, which I don't want. So obviously I have to make the proper substitution. So x dot is just x2, right? We already know that from here that that's x2. X is the same as x1. And then everything else is fine. So I'm going to make those substitutions down here. I'm going to say x dot is the same as x2, x is the same as x1, and so I get that replacement. Now I have it written in my, if I take these two equations, equation 1 and let's call this equation 2, if I take these two equations, now I have my full representation in terms of the state vector. Okay, so I'm going to have a state vector x1, x2, and I have that part down. Now remember that I also have a measurement term, so now to get the full state space representation, I need more than just the state vector. You know, if I come back up here, I need more than just q. I need also this, which will be easy, and then I need to get my y, okay? So, and I'm measuring x. I'm just going to keep reminding myself that that's the measurement that's happening here. And so because of that, first thing, I find my q dot, which is just x1 dot, x2 dot vector. The matrix A, well, notice that x1 dot is equal to x2, so I just get a 1 over here and a 0 here. There's no x1 in the first equation. This one has, now I have to look at my x1 and x2. So x1 was minus k over m, so that comes down here. And x2 has a coefficient, sorry, I should mention these are the coefficients. The coefficient of x2 is minus b over m, which comes down here. This is my vector q, And then I only have a single u. So since I only have one input force, this is just gonna be a variable, right? It's just gonna be like a single number rather than a vector. So there's gonna be no vector here. But notice that I don't have u in my first equation. There's no u there. So my matrix B, and I'm going to call it a matrix, although it's just a vector in this case, is going to be 0 up here because there's no u in the first equation. And then 1 over m, well, notice this was u over m, right? This was u over m. So that gives me 1 over m for the coefficient down here, and then I can just multiply it times u, right? And think of u as a single variable or a single number. And the last part is to get my to take care of the part that I'm measuring. So recall that I'm measuring at x, but x is not in my two state variables. I have either x1 or x2, so I have to remember how I transformed x. Well, if I come back up here, remember that x1 is equal to x. So that means my measurement, y1, I'm measuring at a single place. My measurement, y1, is just going to be equal to x1. That's where I'm measuring. So if I look at my state variables, I had two state variables, x1 and x2. So this has to be the matrix C, which is just, again, just a vector. And notice that I'm only measuring x1. So x1, obviously 0 times x2 because I'm not measuring x2. Okay? And then finally over here, I just am multiplying u by 0, right? Because I didn't have any measurement of the input force in this original system. Now you can imagine that if I had measured the input force, I would need maybe d equal to 1, for instance, or something like that. But and this, by the way, is just this vector y is actually just y1. It's not even a vector. It's just a single, because I'm only measuring at a single place. So if I was measuring at multiple places, then I would need to turn this into a vector. But I can imagine situations where d is not 0, but I haven't presented any of those scenarios here. That's all that I have for this video. Hope to see you again soon.